Hi, everyone. I have the privilege of introducing our guest speakers today, Len Whiting and Ed Franko. It's a special privilege for me because, as well as the connection I have with Len and Ed as musical colleagues, my connection with Len actually goes back to the George Demaduke days at Beaver Brae in the late 1970s, when Len and my brother Ken were both in the music program at Beaver Brae. Around that same time, Len was also in a vocal quartet with some of Kenora's other very talented young musicians under the direction of my husband, Barry Easton. There was a lot of music happening in our basement in those days. My brother Ken, Len, and I all studied music at the University of Toronto, so we have that connection as well. Len came back to Kenora in the summer of 2018 after 25 years teaching at the University of Toronto Scarborough campus, singing with the Canadian Opera Company, and working as music director at Trinity Presbyterian Church, Toronto. He is currently the director of music at St. Albans Cathedral, artist in residence with the Kenora Catholic District School Board, co-artistic director of Triptych Concert and Opera, and member of the Festival of the Arts Committee. Ed has had a busy career in stage directing and producing opera and music theater, as well as being the IT manager for a high-end residential construction company in Toronto. He is currently the live stream coordinator and cantor for St. Albans Cathedral, co-artistic director of Triptych Concert and Opera, artist in residence with the Kenora Catholic District School Board, and a member of the Festival of the Arts Committee. Both Len and Ed are members of St. Albans Cathedral's Carillon Bells Committee, which is currently raising funds for the Bells of Hope campaign to update the Carillon technology at St. Albans. Please join me in welcoming Len and Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. So I'm going to start things off with a little introduction, and then hopefully the video will do what it's supposed to do and we can share that. It's about 5 minutes long. So the Bells of Hope, the making of the video. Bells of Hope, the sound that rings out in joy and transcends everyday life and resonates excitement, love, spirit, and inspiration. How can we not immerse our hearts in the celebratory vibrations of the Carillon Bells? We will shortly, if technology is my friend, be able to play it for you, this video. Local media guru Matt Kennedy, who's the son of St. Albans and Ted and Stephanie Kennedy, is a talented videographer, filmmaker, who was engaged by the committee to put together a video for the Bells of Hope campaign. On a cold yet bright winter day in December, Matt paid visit to St. Albans and worked with committee members, including myself and Len, to put together this video. Armed with his cameras and drone, he met with specially selected spokespeople and spent the day filming members of the Kenora community who expressed their passion for the Carillons. These Kenorites shared their thoughts, dreams, and visions for what the Carillons can mean to our Northwestern community. The video drone flew outside and inside our beloved cathedral, capturing the beauty of St. Albans. His adroit camera work and sensitive interview style brought out the best in all those interviewed. Together with Matt, I climbed the narrow staircase up the tower to where the St. Albans bell, installed in 1937, hangs with pride. We took the time to add historical photos, the bulletin from the 1948 Carillon installation, which is amazing that we had that, and the plaques that honor those that lost their lives in the Great Wars. We're looking for financial support in our Bells of Hope campaign. So when we are at the end of the COVID-19 tunnel, we will be ready to celebrate the end of this terrible pandemic with the victorious vibrations of our new Carillon bells. So let's see if we can launch this baby and go from there. So I'm just gonna have a look here, which is, there it is.
Well, I think of St. Albans as a part of what I've come to regard as a cultural hub at the south end of Main Street in Kenora. And I think culture is really the heartbeat of a community. It has been a physical presence for over 100 years on this site, and certainly been a cultural and spiritual presence in the community for over 140 years, or close to 140 years.
Carillon Bells were created in China 4,000 years ago and didn't enter into the church scene until around 800.
The carillons, which are installed in the bell tower of St. Albans here, were dedicated in May of 1948 to recognize those who served in the First World War and the Second World War.
Well, it was after the war in the late 40s, and it came, and we were all very excited because this little instrument not only could play for us, but we could turn a switch and it could be heard outside.
It was Christmas Eve of 1956. I'm dating myself. But the organist and I were practicing for the 11 p.m. service at St. Albans. But what we didn't realize, what the switch going outside to the community was on. So the Reverend was getting calls. We liked the bells. Everybody was appreciating it.
We would hear the music coming, even if we were down on the harbor front. I remember one time a friend asked me, they're like, "Where did that come from?" I'm like, "That's my church."
It does draw people to the church.
The bells rang out for the rest of the 1940s, 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and in the early 90s, they became silent. Silent because of the aging technology.
We just need to update the technology.
Well, the church bells hadn't rung during the war, and then when peace was called, all the church bells started ringing and people came out into the streets. And I know that's a bit of a romantic idea, but how cool would that be if once the pandemic is over and once the lockdowns are done, that people can go outside and hear it carrying over the neighborhood?
I would like to see the Carillon Bells installed and ready to play before next Christmas for sure. And in celebration of the end of the pandemic, to recognize those frontline people that have served and put their lives in danger so that to protect us.
I think that actually sounds really nice. It might be like the bell for the finish line of this thing.
There's been a lot of sadness and a lot of fear, and to hear the bells and, sort of it's all over, folks, I think that would be great.
Now we're at the stage where perhaps we should do the fundraising part of it.
It's a wonderful way to support their community.
I would like them to give what they have, but just not all of it. Just like a piece of it.
When we officially can say it's over, let the bells peal. It's going to be glorious.
Music brings people together, and that's what we're trying to do with this Carillon project, is to bring people together so that we're celebrating something as a community.
I think the sound of the bells is an uplifting sound.
I think it would be nice to hear it again.
Anyone who's involved in music or has even listened to music knows how emotional it can be and knows about nostalgia and tradition. And I think that it'll just open the hearts of everyone around that can hear it.
When I think of the bells ringing out again, out over Memorial Park and out over the community of Kenora, I think it's a beautiful reminder to us of the values that we should embrace: freedom, justice, sacrifice, and honor. And I think what a beautiful accompaniment to the heartbeat of Kenora.
we go. Okay, Leonard, I think it's your turn to do.
Just a little. I don't have much to say. That video really covers everything beautifully. I do just want to share from my lifetime experience, having grown up here in Kenora, and as a kid playing the carillons while I was a teenager, and then traveling around the world to the various cathedrals that I've sang at over the years, and listening to the carillons pealing is just. It transports you. And then just a little bit of trivia. In Canada, I found out this week, I've been doing a little bit of research, but there are actually only 11 mechanical carillons in Canada, and only 9 of them are functioning. And the ones that I just draw to your attention, of course, are the ones in the Peace Tower in Ottawa, in at Hart House. There's a wonderful carillon that's played regularly, and in Ontario Place. I mean, there are others. But the one thing, just drawing to your attention, that the installation that we're going to be reactivating at St. Albans, it's not just as limited to church. It's a community thing, and then the repertoire that can be played and has been played is a combination of popular music and some sacred music as well. And one of the beautiful things that I sort of envision is that maybe we can have the bell toll noon through the work week, for example. And I remember as a kid growing up, and many of you probably remember, I think it was at 5 o'clock at the mill, they would always pull the horn, and that would represent the end of the day, the work day. So I don't know. Lots of things. Anyways, I open the other thing I was going to say is what a pleasure to be able to speak with you. This is the second time that Ed and I have had the chance to speak to Rotary. The first time was when we were doing the production of HMS Parliament, and now in a different capacity in our role as members of the Carillon Committee.
So I just wanted to add a couple things. The technology that you saw in the video, there was a small keyboard and then there was a box full of tubes and wires and things. And that's what actually made the carillon sounds. And then you could control, as Gwen said, you can flip the switch, and Taddy, you can flip the switch in, out, or both. And there are horns up in the steeple that send the sound out. The bell that you saw was the one installed in 1937, is a singular bell that is traditionally rung during services by Bill Zroback. In fact, he's very the master of that singular bell, but that is a totally separate thing to the carillon system. The new system is a box like that big. It's a computerized box that actually hooks up to the digital Allen organ that is in the church. So it will be played directly off the organ. So the costs of the new system are like removal of the existing and then setting it up and programming it with the organ so that it becomes all one sort of unified package. So Leonard could be sitting there, flip the switch, and all of a sudden he can be on the organ and shooting out the Carillon bells ringing across Kenora or just inside the church. Yeah. The company is actually the same company that installed them in 1948, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. Schlimmerich, we're still debating exactly how you say it, but Len and I have had meetings, and Bill with them discussing costs and what's needed. And that's why we have a budget of $50,000, which includes installation. They have to come up, drive up here, stay in town for 2-3 days. We have to connect with Allen organ technicians and putting it all together, and then having money there to deal with the future for upgrades, or if there is a problem in the future, we don't want to just be left hanging that it's not working again. So we want to keep this as a a mainstay of the community where it can be a celebratory thing. And ironically, it also has a broadcasting system that can be an emergency broadcasting system through it. That's something that is actually part of it. So, Leonard, is there anything else that you wanted to share? Oh, I can't hear you. You're okay. Your audio is off.
No, Ed, that's very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Do you have time for questions?
Yes,
absolutely.
We do, for sure.
Are there any questions or comments?
Carillon.
Well, I put in the chat that I think it would be amazing to have them running for Christmas, because if you can imagine, you know, that sound across the town would be awesome. But once you've reached the goal, what is the time frame in terms of getting things up to speed?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, once we can confirm that we have the resources, it's then 3 months for them to assemble it, and then they would come up and install it. The other thing is that in all likelihood, it's also weather dependent. So as much as I'd love to see it possibly being played by Christmas time, I don't think weather permitting, because they have a number of other projects on the go. But I personally think, I don't know, Easter.
Yeah. So that would be an ideal time.
Ron, did you have a question?
I did, thank you. Just kind of a bit of a technical sort of question. Are the new Carillon Bells very different than the original ones, and is the sound pretty similar?
The sounds are much more expansive. I think they have 8 different types of tones that you can use. From very similar to what we have right now, plus a variety of others, including like the Flemish bells, which are brighter and lighter, and that variety is available to us on call.
The interesting thing about the system is that where the previous system, you just could play it. This one has it's the resource of 7,500 pre-recorded tunes, and you can get it upgraded. So you can program times that this tune would come out. And as Leonard said, there's secular and sacred music. So it's not just sacred music that's involved. And then, of course, whoever's at the organ can play something specific or even record something onto the system. So it's much more versatile than the previous 1948 technology.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Looks like Gord.
Gord?
What is the total cost of the project, and how much money have you raised so far?
It's $50,000. We have our official $50,000 thermometer that we post in our St. Albans messaging every week. And we're at about $23,000 right now. We're getting close to halfway.
Yeah, good.
Very good. And because of COVID, everything was delayed, so we didn't really get started till just a few weeks ago. So we're very excited that we've been able to make such progress and get a lot of enthusiasm for the project.
Just sharing one little story quickly. One person chose to donate to the cause and expressed that 40 years ago, she and her husband were married at St. Albans, and as they were leaving the church, the Carillons were playing, and she remembers that to this date.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to ask Len Mark if he would thank our guests.
My pleasure. It's nice to see you again, Edward and Len. The things that you're doing now in town here are really quite amazing, and we support you 100%. it's interesting to have the chimes play. It certainly makes a big difference on the atmosphere, of course, in the town. Just aside, when I was active in business, we sold carillons by a company out of California called Moss Row. Oh. And we did install them in the church and also outside, so you could hear them outside. But just a little word of warning, on one Sunday, the organist had finished, and in this case, the keyboard was a small keyboard that attached to the organ. So lo and behold, a young Sunday school student came up and decided to play Concerto for Left Hand and Elbow. And of course, that was broadcast all over the local area. So no harm was actually done. It was, it's never been repeated. That concerto, I don't think we'll ever hear again. But it was really quite interesting to see that happen. I know that this will make a big difference. And the contribution that the two of you have done to the music here in Kenora is really quite amazing. And I know you're going to start your summer series again, which is always great. It's nice to see that. Nice to have it. It'd be even nicer, of course, if it was done live, but we realized that it'll come back.
It'll come back.
So we can, we'll sit patiently and wait. On behalf of the club, we've made a donation to the Rotary Foundation to celebrate the fact that you did this presentation to us today. I have one here in living black and white. We will get you one in full color and we'll send it to you.
Thank you.
So it's just appreciation, the things that Rotary does throughout the world to help people that are certainly a lot less fortunate than we are. So we again thank you for your presentation. And I can honestly say this will be the first time that I'm looking forward to have a ringing in my ears. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you again, all.
Thank you so much for having
Thanks,
us.
guys.
Nice
Bye.
to see you all. Hopefully we can meet in person sometime soon, right?
That'll be nice.
Right? Very nice. Thanks for joining us.